about only design, I'm sure it's going to be really boring for you guys, right? That's why we want to include everybody into this conversation, right? And I'll make sure if I'm missing out on a conversation or I use the word design here constantly, please point that out. This is for everyone, okay? All of your attention matters. So we are going to include everyone in this conversation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we make sure Microsoft products are inclusive and how do we make sure that the design team designs products that are for everybody. So, welcome. This is the start of my discussion on inclusive design. And this is especially for those people who want to make great products for the greatest number of people. We talked about metrics in your talk, and we talked about how many people use how many products and how do they use it. This is specifically for those people who want to reach the greatest number of people because there are 8 billion people in this planet, right? And everybody is unique. Everybody has special. So what is the case of inclusion, right? Why should you create things that are inclusive? Why does inclusivity matter? Why does it matter that while I'm designing something, I should design it for designers, I should design it for the engineers, and I should design it for the business owners and the auditors? Why does this matter? Does anybody have any point of view on this? Why should we design for everybody? Why? Why do we include everybody? Any thoughts? I'll give it a minute. You won't get another chance to talk. So, anyone?
That anyone or everyone can use it.
Yes, so that anyone and everyone can use it, right? And it makes a lot of sense. And I love that you're a business guy and you're pointing this out because it makes some money also, right? If more people use the product. And it builds product love and it builds product recognition. Microsoft as a product is something a lot of us have used. We have used Windows, we have used, back in the day from Windows 95 to today when you are using AI tools from maybe on Edge, maybe on Copilot with your WXP products. But the case of inclusion is to include everybody, right? And I pointed this out. This is a little outdated with 7.4 billion. It's now grown to 8 billion. That's such a massive number, right? Everybody is so unique. We have people from different genders, we have different from different identities, people who speak entirely different languages. Some of them have languages that start from right to left and left to right. So how do we make sure that all these products make sense? Right? How do these products make sense? And this is the case for inclusion. As designers, this is my case for inclusion. That if we baseline our own abilities as the standard for making designs, then we will make designs for a very small set of users. And as designers and as problem solvers, I imagine that everyone in this room is a problem solver. As a problem solver, it is a key to design things that work for every single person. It should be aimed at, we aim at reaching the star and we fall for a moon, but we aim for the star, right? We aim for all, for including everybody. All this 8 billion. I want to create something that 8 billion people can use. They may not choose to use it, that's a choice. You always have a choice. But I want to target this 8 billion. They should not have any problems when they use these products. It should be accessible. That product should include them. Let's get more into this, right? So who do we design for and who gets excluded? A lot of times when we're creating products, right, we look at it as a problem that is very personal to us. Let's say, as someone who identifies as a woman, if I only create products for other women, what am I doing? I'm not being inclusive. I am specifically choosing to only include women into this conversation then. I'm creating products that men cannot use. Men or people who identify with different genders cannot include. And that's why it matters. There is an audience of people out there, and they're not limited to us. Not everyone is like me, right? You are different. Everyone in this room is very different from each other, right? If you create things that are important to you or matter to you, you will end up creating a product that maybe only you like to use. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's great to create a product that only you can use. But again, I think our businessman knows This is a product that is not well monetized, and it's not a product that is for everybody. This is a product that doesn't solve a big problem. I think as problem solvers, we want the problem to be big enough. It has to be impactful enough. It should make change. It should change the world, right? We talk about things that really truly matter. And I see a lot of young people in this room, right? We all, when we are young, we have that fire that we want to make things and we want to create change, right? This is what it is. This is what it is. This is the choice to design for beyond who you are. You may be fluent in English and wonderful with your words, but you design for someone who doesn't understand the language. You design for someone in the rural world who does not have internet connectivity like you do, who doesn't understand what AI is. So this is a choice to make. This is when we design beyond ourselves. Because if we design for ourselves, there is a very big myriad and a range of humanity that gets ignored when we choose to design only within the limitations of our biases. Again, I think this slide really well encapsulates the thought I'm trying to throw here. And if you see here, right, there is so much to it. There is language ability, there is tech literacy, there is gender, age, physical ability. Inclusion means to include people beyond what you know. Let's understand a little bit more about why it matters. Why does inclusion matter? Let's say you design a product that only you can use. My question to you is, maybe you can use it today. You'll change tomorrow. What about the product that? What happens to the product then? Right? Does the product grow with you? How do you make sure that this product makes sense? Maybe today you design a product for a professional, but tomorrow you're a student again. What happens to the product then? Human beings are not just diverse, they're ever evolving, they're consistent in change. It's an interesting thought. We are constantly evolving. Even today, 10 minutes, went for a 10-minute break. You as a human and a chemically bonded being has changed in these 10 minutes. You are not the same. The component of time is an ever-changing dimension, essentially. We call it the fourth dimension. I think I'm getting a little more philosophical than we want this conversation to get. But when we design for all, we design for change. We design products that are timeless. And I work with Microsoft, but I hate to bring this, but Google has created some timeless products too. And that's why all these brands, Microsoft, Google, maybe Uber, maybe you use Ola, maybe you use Zomato. There are some products that are new, nascent, catch fire, but there are products that are super old and continue to be in the circuitry. A lot of us still use Apple products. Since Steve Jobs is no longer here, but we still continue to use it. Bill Gates is no longer on the panel for Microsoft, but we still continue to use Microsoft products, right? Because these products have aged with time. They have fit our lives. They have continued to be inclusive and continue to follow accessibility. So let's get more into it, right? We want to create products that are immortal. We want to create products that 8 billion people use. We want to create products that essentially bring everyone into the conversation, right? Let's get into it a little more. I'm going to talk about the 3 principles of inclusive design that Microsoft loves to follow. And all of these things that I'm going to talk to you about is publicly acknowledge Microsoft conversation. You can find all of this online. I'm not doing much of a conversation here. But the good thing is I can do a dialogue and you can ask me questions at the end of this. The 3 principles is number 1, to recognize exclusion. You have to understand where there is bias. You have to understand where people are being left out. For example, when I was sitting in this room, I felt there is a scope for inclusion in this room. Whereas it would be unfair for me to assume that every single person in this room is a designer. And that happens, right? A lot of times. You are sitting in an auditorium full of engineers and you're not identified at all. Everybody just assumes all of you as designers. So I just felt that, with my little conversation, I can recognize that not every single person over here is a designer. So let me recognize everyone here and make sure I don't exclude anybody. So the first step is to recognize exclusion. The second is to learn from diversity. How do you learn from diversity? You make your design processes rich. You create your problem solving steps richer. You make your product creation stages involved. If you are creating a product, why don't you make sure that product is used by everyone? You test that product. You involve people from every strata of this world to use that product. You test that product in a rural background. You test that product in a hospital clinic when people are running and they're busy. They're so busy that they're blinded by the lack of time, right? Their physical bodies are completely able, but time and situation and that moment in their life has changed and made them visible for a moment. Let me then talk about how I'm just going to quickly talk about this. I'm skipping a few slides. I hope we can share this with you guys so you can read more in depth. I'm going to quickly talk about how disability as a term has changed over time. Disability is no longer the same. In 1980, disability was just a personal attribute. That somebody has lost a limb in war, maybe somebody has lost their sense of vision. But today, disability is not just the range of physical limitations, it is way more than that. It is our connection and the features of society. The complex phenomena of reflecting the interaction that you have with society and the gaps that we have with society when we are interacting with this world, those gaps make us disabled. So this could be something like your limitation to internet connection, your inability to understand English, even something small as someone who has moved to a city like Chennai and they don't understand Tamil. Your inability to understand a language disables you to have a conversation with someone over there. And so disability is not just a physical being anymore. In 2024, we identify and understand that disability is way more. It's way more because the society is complicated and there are so many parameters over here that matters. And disability happens at interesting points of interaction. Maybe it's while you're using your phone on a video call. Maybe it's while you're traveling and looking at maps. It happens at very unique interaction and as custodians of technology and users of technology, it is our duty to understand these points, considering all of us are problem solvers. As problem solvers, this is one of the biggest problems, right? How do we fulfill the problems of everyone? Right? How do we make sure that all human-computer interactions, all human-machine interactions, all human-to-human interactions are free of disability and are inclusive? Like I talked about it, this is no longer what disability is. It's no longer a personal health condition. It is now mismatched human interactions. It is two people talking in two different dialects and not understanding each other. Is that very different from someone who can't hear? No. They can hear the sounds but they don't understand the words. So they are deaf in that moment, right? So disability is not limited. These are some very interesting examples. Disability can be situational, disability can be temporary, and if you see from left to right, I would love for you guys to point out some other examples, but I'm going to quickly share some of these interesting ones. When you are in a loud room, you can't hear, you cannot communicate your thoughts. You are in a car, you are visually impaired because you're driving ahead and you no longer can see the map on your phone. Right? So this disability is what? Situational. It's a situational disability. Any examples from today or whatever life background they have coming from, can you tell me something where you have experienced situational disability? Anyone?
Wearing 3D glasses for a movie, that is a different experience for me because I have glasses versus somebody who doesn't.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Putting on those 3D goggles on top of your already, myopic or myopic eyes, and it's so uncomfortable, and in that movie you're just, lifting up your glasses. That is a situational disability. That's a great example. Let's look at temporary disability. I'm sure all of us would have had some temporary disability. Maybe you have a very young child, so the first 6 months of nursing for your child, you're always, one of your hands is always preoccupied. I mean, all of you are super young, so I'm going to go in another direction. Maybe you are a student, and you were skateboarding one of these days from a really high altitude, and unfortunately you broke a hand or a leg. And though your friends are really appreciative and they've signed get well soons on your plaster, but unfortunately you can no longer go down to take your exam because there are so many stairs that you have to go down. Or maybe it's your right hand. Oops, can't give the exam, you need a writer. So what happened here? This is a very tiny duration of your life, maybe a few months. But what happened? You are temporarily disabled, right? Any examples? Anybody over here who really suffered from a fracture or something really sad that happened to them? Please share your misfortune with us. Please. Anything that has come across their life.
Maybe you have been gifted a car by your dad, but you don't know how to drive.
Yeah, great. Fantastic example. Yeah, it's a situation of disability. You can't really travel, you have a car, but
Maybe someone has received a car in lottery.
Totally possible. Someone has a book they can't read. Any one of you guys watch anime?
Yes.
You guys watch anime? Are you those guys who watch it dubbed or subbed? Quick. Subbed. Do you know what subtitles are? Do you know what subtitles are and why you are using subtitles and who else uses subtitles? Well, I can't hear you. But, sorry. Yeah, subtitles were invented for people who can't hear, and guess who's enjoying that? People who love Japanese animations. Why? Because it's in Japanese and you want the original experience of watching and hearing it in Japanese, but you don't understand Japanese. So what do? You read the subtitle. Yeah. Awesome. So shout out to Dragon Ball Z out here. Lost his sleep. Do you get it? I think you guys are really smart and you have some great examples. I think you had an example, I cut you off. Go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, when you are able to give paper because you are detained. You are detained from the university examination and you can't give the paper.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. You can't take the exam. So I'm hoping a temporary or a situational disability, and you're not debarred for life. So step one is to identify that there is limitation of inclusivity. And number two is to learn from this, right? Learn from this. What does it feel like for someone who is driving but they can't see the maps? So somebody decided that, I'm going to put the maps right in front of their eyes. And now somebody is just confused. They are looking at the screen and driving, and that leads to a lot of accidents, right? You learn from disability when you interview a young mother who's taking care of her baby but also working with her right hand. She's constantly preoccupied. Maybe there is a student who's broken his hand, he's constantly preoccupied. Or maybe something very interesting, like, is anyone in this room left-handed? No one's, oh, okay, awesome. Can you talk a little bit about life as a left-handed person? Sorry? It's very normal. Have you ever used those desks that are advanced to take exams? That's what? I'm hearing it's a bad experience. It's a very bad experience. Awesome. So, that's not awesome, I'm sorry. What's awesome is that now we have an example of what disability can be. It is not limited to somebody who can't hear, who can't see. It is way beyond, right? It is in day-to-day life. And imagine that, it's such a simple thing, right? So many people in this world, like even in this tiny audience, we were able to find one person who's left-handed. And they still have these desks that are for right-handed people, and everyone uses it. It's wild, right? That's such bad and so non-inclusive as design, right? And that is why accessibility matters. So you learn from diversity, you talk to people. If I only talk to people who are right-handed, I will never create something that is for left-handed people. I'll never do it because I'll never talk to them. I'll never understand their problems. I'll never identify that these things matter. And the sad thing is, you gave me a very good, you just walked right into this. I'm so sorry. But, the moment I asked her, do you have any problems? What did he say? All's great. There's no problem. I'm just left-handed, no problem. Yeah, there is. Sometimes I have trouble. It's a bad experience. You know why? Because when we have situational, temporary or permanent disabilities in life, and all of us do, okay, all of us do, it is not included to one or two people, all of us. But we learn to adapt. Human beings are so interesting, right? We learn to adapt. Like, you might be sitting in the world's most uncomfortable chair, but you learn to adapt. You might be traveling with a packed metro, but two people will tell you to adjust, and you learn to adapt. That, okay, fine, I'm going to squeeze myself, but I'm going to learn to adapt. And that's why when I asked him, his first response was, not really a problem. Imagine being left-handed, or all of you are right-handed, right? Don't even imagine. You are all right-handed. Imagine taking exam on this side your entire life, or attending 4 years of college on a desk here. That sounds so uncomfortable, right? Sounds horrible. But he learned to adapt to it, so he didn't care. The first response was all great. Thank you for sharing. I know your friends are teasing you around there, I can see that. Guys, don't trouble them, okay? That's not very useful of you. Alright, so the great thing is, when you learn adaptation, like if we sit together and we understand how do people who are left-handed use a desk designed for right-handed people, you understand, how they have managed. So I've seen designs where you can move from right to left. It's designed in such a way. They try to be. So there are a lot of things. So it's important that we include everyone. Now moving ahead, we are in a world where we are constantly moving. I am constantly moving, she's constantly moving, all of us. We are almost fidgety when we have to sit down. We use our phones, we understand where what is. Moving around, looking at interfaces, like there is an interface here, there is one in your hand, there is one in your pocket. As mobiles or technology has become mobile, there are many more moments of these disabilities. These moments have increased because you are looking at a mobile screen for maps. You are looking at a mobile screen while you are walking. So you are what? When somebody is using their mobile and walking, do you think they will be able to see what's happening in front of them? You miss out on day-to-day life. You bump into people who overstep places. So as technology is becoming more and more mobile, I think we are great. I think I'm so glad you're learning. I think I've lost.
हेलो अरे भाई तू कैसे करके लेके जा रहा है डिस्प्ले टूट जाएगी उनकी आराम से लाए प्लेट के ऊपर एक लेके आया वो बंदा फोन करके कह रहा है
Okay, so I just learned a little bit about how to use a mic entirely on me.
But
it's interesting that it's a very good example of what I'm talking about. As technology, this is a piece of technology, right? As it's getting more mobile, it's no longer connected with it. I'm moving around with it, I'm using it, she's using it. She is an expert at using a mic, I'm not. So what happens when we interchange mics? There are 5 speakers today, so Ajit used the mic, then I use it, and someone else uses it. The chances of one of us, like me, doing something stupid when it increases, right? It's very likely because it's not designed for everyone. It's not designed for stupid people like me. And I think that's what a big part. I've been laughing at this mic. No one told me, haha, and get back to the mic. But all these special, I've done it again. I never learned. we have full battery, guys. This deserves a round of applause. So this is a very good example of situational disabilities and temporary disabilities when we were not able to talk. Imagine the mind doesn't work entirely. They were able to save me, but then I would have to essentially shout to you like I would to someone who's not very good at hearing, right? And be like, hey guys, can you hear me? I'm shouting and I'm trying to communicate. This is a temporary moment of disability. And as things become more mobile, and as they are moved around multiple people, it's going to happen. It is going to happen. Like just now, Anushka was talking on the phone while she was helping us put the batteries, right? And it's a difficult process to, open battery packs like this while you're on a phone. It's a difficult moment of disability. And I wonder why no one designs the packaging in a way that's much easier to open. But anyways, the point is that as mobility of technology increases, and though I come from a technology background, I'm going to go, on an extra level and say, as moments of mobility in general increase between human beings, these moments of disability will be an increased occurrence, and it's going to happen. So when you design products, if you don't want people to throw away your product in anger because of their temporary or situational disability, it is important that you build for everyone. And this first step to designing something great, to solving an important problem. What is it? This is their empathy, right? We keep talking about empathy all the time. Empathy is so important. It is so important to understand the lifestyle and the way different people behave, right? Like all of us in this room, like each and everyone has come from a different place. All of us have unique and complicated lifestyles. All of us, like it's breathtaking to even sit with someone for 15 minutes and the things that you learn from their life. How they woke up in the morning, what they ate to breakfast, how did they travel out here. I love how Ajit, when he started his talk, was talking about how difficult it was for him to reach this room. A lot of us just walk in. I work at Microsoft, I just walk in. I'm in this room. But I would never be able to imagine how difficult it is to get there till I got to know that he used the lift, maybe he parked his car and then he reached the wrong floor, which is under construction. And maybe he had 2 minutes of thought that, am I getting scammed? What's happening? Right? What's happening? Where am I? Like, is this the right office? Like, you must have, right? And I would never know if we did sit together to understand each other and we did spend time to tell us, like all of us, how difficult it was, right? And I'm sure there's so many people, I've been told there are 80 of us. All of you must have had some struggle. Maybe someone's coming from Gurgaon. Well, God bless you. That's a very, very far place to come from. So empathy is absolutely important. And we have to be very patient and kind and understanding different backgrounds of people and where they are and how they are dealing with things. But sometimes we work in a team that has many people in it and all of us have very unique backgrounds. How do we deal with someone who's not very good with English, right? Let's say you have a presentation tomorrow and you have a teammate who's not the best with English. Do you continue to talk to that person in English? Do you berate that person for not knowing English? No. What do? You switch to Hindi or you switch to another vernacular, right? You do that. Because you have empathy. You are not a stone cold, horrible person. You care about this person, you want to work with them, you want to include them. And that is why the core of every single thing, every single problem that you're solving in this world, I would say, the best way to reach to that is to have a mindset of empathy. It is to reach out with kindness, with interest, to understand what the other person wants, to understand where they come from and what's happening in their life. Don't reach to judgments and conclusions because of your limited understanding. We are not very smart, All of us, I sometimes, I think I'm so smart. But the reality is, I know only as much as I know. I can only know as much as I know. A single human being. I can rely on internet and get information from a lot of you guys. But on my own, my information is very tiny and very limited and very minuscule in this grand scheme of 8 billion people. And that is why empathy matters. It is to have interest in knowing more. It is a curiosity to understand what another person's life looks like. And this is that moment I'm going to ask you guys something. Can you ask someone? So, You have someone sitting in front of you, someone sitting behind you, on your right, left, and both directions. Check around you. Is there one person that you don't know in that? Go ahead, ask them what they had for breakfast today. This is that moment. Do it. Come on. For starters, I had alcard juice today for breakfast because I'm doing like a detox. Please, love to know. What do you have for breakfast? Please have a talk with everyone around you as well and ask them to my I think one thing we can all of us do is in order to keep your students in their chat. I'm hoping everyone had a conversation. I'm just hoping everyone would have a very good conversation. I know it's a bit of a time, but I have to move on a little bit. I met some nice people and they had some healthy and no food breakfast. So thank you for sharing that, guys. And let's go ahead. We have understood that empathy is not just about not just asking what's for breakfast for empathy. There is a lot more involved. There is a need for an in-depth conversation, and there are many methods and tools that help us be more empathetic. But let's go ahead. Right? My third principle for today is that when you solve for one, you solve for all. Solve for one, solve for many. Don't we just love to have less features in our products? Like in today's world, one product does so many things, it's so difficult to navigate what's happening. But imagine having one product for all problems, right? One small thing that solves many people's problems, right? For example, let's say I create some packaging for something like this. And it's so easy that while Anushka is on phone, she can just open it with her left hand. Guess who else is going to be super easy for? It's going to be easy for you while you're on your phone. It's going to be easy for someone holding a baby in one of their hands. It's going to be easy for someone driving. Maybe they need a battery for some reason. And it's going to be super easy for someone who's cooking and their timer has ran out, but they have to continue stirring or the food will burn. And that's what they do, right? They put the battery, open the packet easily and just put the battery there. Close it off. So closing has to be super easy as well. So when you design for one scenario and you make it inclusive, you make it accessible, you identify there is exclusion, you diversify your process of building, and you solve not just for one, you solve something that extends to a lot of people. So this is a great example. If you see here, this is someone who's hard of hearing. So, like we were talking about the example with anime, right? For a lot of people who are hard of hearing, in airports there is often like screens that have subtitles and marquee text going through it. So what does that help with? Someone who's in airport which is very noisy, they're able to navigate and quickly find where they have to go. And not only does it help both of them, it helps you, let's say you're teaching a child how to read. So there is a lot of visuals that they can easily understand through. So having good visuals helps someone who's hard of hearing. I design for someone who's hard of hearing. I end up solving the problem of someone in a chaotic and loud place like an airport. And I also end up solving the problem of a mother who's trying to teach a child how to read. So this is something that brings in the beauty of constraints into the conversation. So all of you here who have problem solved for people maybe with disabilities, maybe without disabilities, I bring this conversation to you as true problem solvers. And I really hope you can invite this in your problem solving journey is to embrace constraints. Constraints are difficult, rules are hard. Bringing in strong personas like I want to design something that somebody with visual impairment uses is really hard to do. There are so many small details that you have to bring to this mix. And honestly, it's super hard, you know what, to when they are on a wheelchair. Imagine this area. A person with wheelchair cannot even enter. Like today when I was sitting there, you know what I noticed? There was someone who entered this door. Please identify yourself if you are in this crowd. And they tripped on the step over there. It was you, okay? The auditor tripped on the stair over there. And you know why? Because this was not designed for inclusivity. It is someone who's talking to someone in front. It is someone on a wheelchair. It is someone who cannot see. And they should be able to navigate this small journey at least, right? Come on. That if you're not designing for this constituent, then what are you designing for? Whatever you're designed to be used by two people, it's really beautiful, but nobody enjoys using it. I would want you all, as designers, problem solvers, business owners, to create products that embrace the beauty of constraints. You will create things that will blow your own mind away. The things and details that you can cater to when you are mindful, when you are embracing accessibility, the things you will end up creating will take you way beyond. And different set of people are going to, really enjoy your products. Not just someone with one limb, someone with an arm injury, someone who is a new parent. I was giving examples of this as well, right? So different people benefit when you design with accessibility in mind. And more people benefit when you design with accessibility in mind. You don't have to be a well-wisher of this universe to make great design. You have to think like a businessman sometimes. And I'm telling you this proposition as a problem solver who wants to solve greatest problems for greatest number of people. This is how you do it. There might be only 26,000 people with permanent disabilities, but there are many more in temporary. So when you involve more people will benefit. And this is the persona spectrum. This is what a persona spectrum looks like. Permanent, temporary, situational, different modalities like touch, see, hear, speak. I'm not going to over-explain this. I know all of you are really intelligent. And I'm hoping that the font size is good enough for you to see this persona spectrum. But it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes so much sense, right? If you create something for someone with permanent disability, you solve so many people's problems. It just makes sense. And technology is a tool. It is a tool for all of us. So persona spectrum makes so much sense. Right? And beyond the persona spectrum, let's look at the persona network. Our lives are intertwined. We have family, friends, strangers, co-workers. There is someone sitting right next to you. In all the directions around you, there is somebody. Right? Except for but yes, you get the point. You have people around you that you know, that you don't know, that you might work with in future, that you might have a conversation with in the next few minutes. And every single person around you is a touch point of interaction. Human to human interaction, human to your mobile interaction. Maybe you're interacting with this interface, maybe with that interface. Your interactions with interfaces, computers, products, machines, all of it. It creates a network. And this persona network of family, friends, strangers, colleagues is all important in the context of designing for everybody. And this is what we aim towards, right? It's a very massive aim. 8 billion is a very big number. To design for everyone is a challenge. It's difficult. And that's why we look at accessibility as a treasure to us. As a treasure, as a shortcut to creating things and solving problems that matter to all of us. Right? Seeing disability differently and understanding exclusion helps us extend the solution for one person into solution for millions of people. I really like this paragraph, and I thought, this image really, in some ways, portrays the kind of emotion I'm trying to share here. This is a person looking right into the abscess of the universe, right? And we are a tiny planet in this massive universe and beyond. Things we have not discovered, things we have not seen. And all of us are interconnected to each other. It's a really absurd thing to talk about, and as I'm walking closer to you, sounding very menacing also. All of us in this room, all of us are connected. We are connected by biology. We are connected, so basically biology, because we are made out of the same cells. we're connected chemically. We're made out of the same proton, neutron, electron, all of us. And you know the funny part is a lot of times the electrons from our bodies are interchanging when they're still be close enough. It's exchanging and it's moving on, and at one particular point in time we don't know where it is. But isn't it amazing that all of us are so interconnected, but we still continue to only create for a few? And this is where the aim and the goal for 8 billion people matters. Tomorrow, if we, have aliens found on this universe, I'm sure we would have to design for them as well. Why not? And we do design for them. When I'm sorry, I don't have an image for this, but have any one of you seen messages that are sent out in the universe? Those are designed for someone who doesn't understand English or anything to understand. Isn't that wild to talk to someone who you don't even know if they exist? Imagine designing something for someone that you don't know they exist. And that's the big constraint. This is the beauty of the constraint. And there are many benefits that we have talked about. Access to the product, they increase the access. If this was a well-designed room, anybody could enter this room. Anyone could sit comfortably on that chair. They reduce the friction. Obviously, these are like really obvious pointers now. And there is obviously more emotional context. I would love to have a product that fulfills my needs, that solves my problems. I want to use something that solves my problems. And every individual, every single person who uses the term I, they all want to use a product that is designed for them, that is designed for me. This is made for me. This is made for all of us, but I should feel like it's made for me. And this is the number one benefit of inclusive design, right? No one is left out. Everybody is in this spectrum together. This is a space I'm also introducing. We do have a toolkit at Microsoft, and I'll share the link with you guys. You can very easily use this toolkit to create inclusive designs and make sure that you take care of accessibility in your product. And this is where the link is here. It is microsoft.com/design/inclusive. Not a plugin. I'm like, there's nothing to plug in. It's just a normal website. It's not paid. All the resources are entirely free for you to create things that matter. And there are multiple short films and documentaries on it, and you can find all the content of today's presentation also over there. Everything that we have talked about is there in microsoft.com/design/inclusive, and you can learn a lot. And I personally want you to be free to have any conversation with me about accessibility. And I am an accessibility champion, which is someone who loves to talk about accessibility, cares a lot about accessibility, and wants to create products and things that it's not just the responsibility of designers and product creators, but all problem solvers, all stakeholders in product creation. It is our responsibility to understand the power that we hold when we create interactions. These interactions are extremely powerful. All interfaces and human beings on this planet matter, right? And so it is our responsibility to use this power well. With power comes responsibility, and it is our responsibility to create products that are accessible, and you are an ally to the products that you create. So this is Shamli, and I love to have you as an audience. That's the link to my LinkedIn. Feel free to pop in a message, and we can have a conversation later here as well. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, sure. Questions? Any questions? Thoughts? I thought I'd leave you with a moment of Thank you.
We talked about creating timeless products which should be made for everybody, and we talked about how people in Microsoft made and have been making products for everybody. But like, do you think that Windows XP or 98 or 2000, they were an individual product, right? And they catered to certain humans. They were inclusive, but at that time we can call them as inclusive, but right now maybe we wouldn't call them as inclusive. But so would we call that a timeless product? But because that was an entirely different product, right? And right now when we have Windows 10 and 11, they are entirely different products. So
Can I know your name?
Shivang.
Shivang. Very good.
Exactly.
Thank you for your question, Shivang. And I would perfect products yet. Because that is why we're employed to constantly drive the change. And all products, right? You can no longer use Windows 95 because it's totally obsolete, essentially. That's why every single version is an improvement. If you look at Windows 11 and look at Windows 95, there is a massive change. And that is why it matters. Like, I remember back in the day, using Edge as a browser was a punishment. But in today's world, because it is AI embedded, people are using it. We had a single day of 100 million downloads. There are people who are using it. There is a change. And as things will grow, there will be gaps, but those gaps are being filled. And it is our responsibility to make sure they are. And I think that as an employee in Microsoft, I am a small part of that, very, very tiny. There are like 3 lakh employees. I'm just one, this massive thing, but I make sure that if there is a design that is going through me, I make sure that design is accessible. I make sure it goes in the product with, it has, so I'll give you an example of how I make sure my products are accessible. I make sure that the contrast ratios are good. In this entire presentation, you've just lost the slide, but in this entire presentation, I chose to have high contrasting colors. It's a choice to make sure that anyone with any kind of vision can view this presentation. So choosing high contrast is also important because someone might be viewing that presentation in different sunlight conditions. So not only does it fulfill their problem, it fulfills another person's problem as well. You make sure that the font sizes are proper, and you make sure that if the interface is resized, it doesn't break. So even if you shift from, let's say, a big laptop to a small laptop, the experience should be continuous. And if there is a problem, we file a bug and there is a problem. In fact, you as a user of Microsoft, I'm putting this responsibility on you. Make sure you file bugs if you see a problem. Do it because those problems will be catered to and they'll be solved. It takes time. There are a lot of people in the mix. But this is the role of an ally champion. This is the role of an ally champion to make sure you are that voice who says no, we will not send this out without discussion. We will make sure that, as a flow we know from where, like when you click on tab, the focus moves, right? That's called a focus order. We make sure we define it. It should not move from one item to a random item. It should move in predictable patterns. We make sure that the screen reader makes sense. Even if my eyes are closed, I should be able to hear and understand what they're talking about. For some people, it makes the interface easy to use. For some people, it is necessary to use the product. Right? Someone's necessity, but someone's enjoyment. Right? But in either way, it solves problems. It makes it accessible, it makes it faster, it makes it more usable. Like Control C, Control V. It is a thing that came from accessibility, right? But now all of us use it. Do you know even small things like Velcro? Anyone wearing Velcro footing here? Anyone Velcro? No one uses Velcro. Grown-up kids, okay. No one uses Velcro anymore. But if you have seen Velcro, maybe you have it in your bags or somewhere. Velcro was originally seen by someone when a piece of, some plant got stuck on their dog's legs, right? And where Velcro was used for? In space. You know why? Because it's a gravity, right? So how do you keep something somewhere? You stick it with Velcro. But friction stays. There's no gravity, but friction stays. And now all of us use it, right? We've used Velcro, come on. Don't say that you've not used Velcro. You don't use it when you can. You've used it in some part of your life. So again, I hope that answers your question that there is no perfect design. It's an iterative and constantly evolving process. And that is why all of us are employed essentially. Engineers are making things, designers are designing things, business owners are earning money, auditors are checking products. So it's a constantly evolving center. All of us are also evolving. Our needs are evolving, our devices are evolving. So it makes sense, right? Any other question, any other thoughts?
How do you balance aesthetics, visual part, and accessibility? For example, if I look this slide, it serves its purpose, but it can be visually enhanced. Secondly, if I see the example of Amazon, देखने में तो मतलब एकदम टेस्ट अच्छी वेबसाइट है, लेकिन accessibility उसमें फॉलो होती है. तो फिर मैं visually अपने प्रोडक्ट को कैसे enhance कर सकता हूँ?
I think in design, the core value is that form, or in your case aesthetics, follow function. This is step one. This is not the last. This is the first step. You make sure you can use it, and then you make it delightful. You make it wonderful. You make it beautiful. I wanted to make a presentation that is very basic, and you can look at the slides and essentially not remember anything from it. I don't intend for you to look at the slides as a piece of information, but as this conversation and dialogue. So I didn't want to make it enhanced. In this slide, I could add a background color, but you could see it, but not someone who's who cannot see every single color, right? So I've made it the bare minimum website, like slides. But you can definitely involve it and enhance it and add more to it. But that again, I would say, aesthetics is a dialogue. You cannot say this is more aesthetic than that. It's a conversation to be had. It's a debate, essentially. Accessibility is not a debate. It's a necessity. So that's why I wanted to come with the basics. But again, like you said, delight matters, and that is what attracts a lot of people to products. I know there was a conversation on thread as well. I wanted to add my 2 cents to that as well. I do think there are a lot of people who have a lot of problem with using thread as well. And though it might be a very delightful product, there are points in the user flow. I have not used thread very frequently, so cannot comment on that. But for a lot of us, there have been moments where accessibility has been compromised. So, as a product, if they look back and fix all those things, the product will become even better. There is no, if the foundation is strong, then the building can be as tall as you want. Any other?
Yeah, so first of all, fantastic presentation. I would share my perspective on accessibility, and then I would ask. So I think when as developers we build stuff, we tend to make a MVP or first smaller version of it. So it's not very feasible to add accessibility and all in the first version or in the beta version of it. So what do you think? It comes with evolution of the product, or no, we have to be sure that it is accessible from very start?
I personally prefer, and Microsoft in general make sure that there are certain guidelines of accessibility being followed. So you might, like, I don't want to make it too verbose and difficult, but there are different guidelines. There are some basic like AA, single A, AAA compliances. And I would say that maybe you cannot go for AAA compliance, and that's too specific. But you can go for AA. I think AA is something that Microsoft aims at bare minimum. But again, when you are creating things, bringing in that conversation is important. Sometimes it doesn't take you, but you bring in that point of view, and it will take time, it will take effort. But that's the job of you as an accessibility champion, to bring that conversation. It takes time. I totally agree with you that changing and asking for requirements, when maybe even do something small as make sure that the contrast ratios and colors are right. That's a very small ask. You have so many tools out there that can help you with that. Very bare minimum, right? But you can try to do that. Maybe you can just define the focus order. Very small. So it's just bringing that conversation. I know these are all aims and goals and very big things that you cannot have a perfect product and you cannot have a perfect MVP. And MVP should include accessibility. It is important. It should not be, accessibility is not a cherry on top. It's a basic foundation of the company. I hope that makes sense. Any other thoughts?
I wanted to, it's more for design question.
Yeah.
So, when we are talking about accessibility, so let's say we are making buttons. We use icons so that the user knows what that button does. But how does accessibility deal with label and unlabeled buttons? So, let's say this was a personal case, that when mom was trying to use WhatsApp and there's a new chat button. It's completely unlabeled, there's just an icon. So I know what that icon means, but she did not. So how does accessibility deal with that kind of situation? Because icons are supposed to be accessible.
Yeah, no, that's a very important point. So usually we do define some alt text in our code, and I think engineers here know alt text.
Right.
That is one. The other thing is you can have a tooltip. You can have like these two things, or just have the word up there. Don't replace it entirely if you feel that your user audience, at least the audience you want to reach out to, is not able to do it. It is a bit of a way, right? Sometimes you don't have the real estate for it, so how do you write it tag? But you have to find better ways to do it. I think a tooltip or an alt text could solve here. But in some scenarios, maybe you can have the label there as well. I would recommend that. Usually, products in Microsoft, we try to go for a label. That's usually the first choice.
So like the label is preferred over unlabeled but icons.
Yes. Or if it's not labeled, then we'll put a tooltip or something.
Got it.
And if it is still there are people out there not being able to use it because of certain reasons, then that needs an investigation. It's a question then. Why are they able to? And you need to empathize, understand, solve it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a little difficult, I know. It's a little difficult to always do the perfect thing. But you try for the perfection. You get like, you reach for the best, you settle for the better, whatever makes it more accessible is the point. Any other?
We talked about inclusivity before. So there are the schemes like even in Microsoft and other companies which are like diversity hiring, and even in government section for caste system like reservation and things like that. But then there are section also people who say that this is unfair to them because they are more deserving than those kind of people. So how do you see it as solving the problem? Like, what do you say on this?
I think in Microsoft there are certain principles for hiring that are followed and they are consistent for anybody. There is a bare minimum that everyone has to reach out to. Inclusive hiring is not particularly, I would say, a little different from reservation. Though I will not put a point of view on reservation here. This is not a political conversation. But in inclusive hiring, what we do is that anyone that is hired, for example, for someone like me, an interview could be a dialogue. But for someone who is struggling to have a dialogue, you need to help them prepare for the interview, right? To even have that interview ready. Somebody is struggling with ADHD or some other cognitive disorder. For them, you need to have the patience and the time. You can't send them 10 messages and expect them to reply back to them in distance, right? We can't do that. So inclusive hiring also targets that these interview processes are. It's more on that. And in fact, I'll share another interesting thing. I've also been part of that inclusive hiring. So in my team, we also have something called mentors. So a lot of times when people are onboarded, maybe they are dealing with some neurodivergent disorder like autism or ADHD or any of those. For them, we assign them a mentor who helps them get accustomed to the system because the system is very complicated and there are so many people and stakeholders. So we make sure that they are onboarding, they are getting to the company and being in the company is easy. There are dialogues and conversation with the entire team around that. I will not comment on reservation because I think that's a very big political conversation to be had. But inclusive means to make hiring processes inclusive for everyone.
Actually, just don't want to ask something, but just to share something. Like I know a person. I know a person who is blind. So he's like he uses his phone like very close to his ear and taps like this. So he like remember all the sounds of tapping on the phone and he just remembers all of the sounds and he just knows like what he's doing on the phone. So that's the first time I just saw a person with disability using the phone.
It's very interesting actually.
Yeah,
we cannot even imagine like close our eyes and use a phone.
Yeah, actually.
Touchscreen phone, I think.
Yeah, like he was dialing his phone number and that was very accurate. Like
Oh yeah, when you dial phone numbers, the tune in every number is different. Yeah.
He remembers all.
Yeah.
You can hack that too.
That is true. Any other questions? I hope you guys were able to hear Ajit's point of view. Any other thoughts or questions, folks, or we can go for a break? Yes, sir.
How do you talk so philosophical or I would say in depth? I mean, your presentation was so good.
I think it's just
we don't,
I am philosophical in
see
general.
such talks.
I'm so
Just
glad.
I thought that it would be technical in design something because you are a Microsoft employee and so on. So, but you considered so many people are
I'm
developers.
very glad and I would say you're really observant to point that out, but I think it's just something I'm really passionate about, so it's coming out with a lot of enthusiasm. And generally I'm a very philosophical person and I dabble in a lot of astrophysics also. So I do enjoy the occasional conversation with life and how all of us are interconnected. I think it comes from, especially as an accessibility, we spend a lot of time with a lot of people with a very different background and life with us. So in that process, you kind of realize like we are so different, but we are so similar. Like it's amazing, right? In this big room, you might meet two people with the same scarves, maybe somebody with the same color palette. Like so, it's so interesting that two people woke up and chose the same colors to wear that day. And why shouldn't both of you use the same product with the same efficiency, right? So it's all like a thought process. Yeah, it is very fascinating. The universe is very fascinating. Any other thoughts or questions? I'm going to go with that. You guys are going to create the next 8 billion audience products now, and you will solve all problems. Or you will at least aim at solving those problems. And I hope that all of you become accessibility champions in your teams and in your own products. And make sure that these products can be used by everyone in all kinds of scenarios, and they are brilliant and wonderful. So best of luck, guys. I hope to connect with you guys here or another time somewhere. And that's all. I think Anushka, you can have the stage back.